evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Walk the Block, where we are navigating digital finance all together. Very excited to be with you here on a very happy Thursday. Big show, big crew, and big audience, it looks like tonight. So, welcome to everybody that is stopping by, and welcome to the show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the markets. We're going to be talking about Justin Sun calling out World Liberty Finance, and we're going to be talking about some cool new tools that are come out for both DeFi folks and TradFi folks. So, a lot of stuff planned here tonight. I am your host, Zenith. I will be doing all the producer stuff, but also chatting it up with these fine gentlemen here. I'm joined by our two excellent panelists. We have Tracker. How you doing?
Always good, man. Always good. Glad to get back on the show. A lot of interesting things transpiring. I think the good thing that everybody's excited about is, oh my God, we stopped going down. We're actually going up a little bit. I think that's the big news right there in itself, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But I mean, we've been saying just hold strong. I mean, that we're weathering the storm, and I think we alluded to it a couple of shows ago that it looks like we're kind of starting to run out of sellers. They seem exhausted, and hopefully that's just it. And we're gonna start reversing. Now we'll dive into the TA. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, excited to get into it.
Excellent. And our third man, but definitely not the least, we got Dace. Good to see you, my man. How you been?
I'm well, sir. I'm well. Keeping really busy and trying to stay on top of all the interesting Richard Hart Liberty Swap news we spoke about just before the show. That's contained a lot of my crypto-based attention lately. There's been a lot going on, like you said, between Justin Sun and on every level, right? I feel like every corner of crypto now all of a sudden has a story. So it's been interesting to follow.
That it is. A lot of interesting stories. And by the way, yes, if we have time, I do want to get to it. There has been some interesting stuff when it comes to Pulse Chain, which we have talked about on the show before. And for the people that are members of the private Telegram community, you know that we like to talk about it on there. And coming this week, we are doing a Pulse Chain review, talking about the overall ecosystem, the tokens, and what we expect to see going on with that in the near future. So if that's not bait for you guys to get into the Telegram, I really don't know what else is. Other than, just doing a little plug here, which is if you want to get in there, head on over to the website, walktheblockndf.com. You can find the membership tab, sign up from there, get inside the private Telegram. You can find the latest and greatest for the chats, all kinds of questions, and all the exclusive live streams, which are all archived, by the way. Once you get in, you have access to everything. You get it all, and you get all the latest stuff when it comes out too. So enough of that.
Just to add to that, we're not raping people on the price either. We're talking what's the price there, man? What are we talking? It's peanuts out there, man. Compared to some of these VPs that are charging thousands of dollars for information, it's insane what some people are charging. That's ludicrous. That's absolutely ludicrous. Really, the goal here is just to have a tight community, and internally it helps us also build stuff and helps reward us just kind of keep going, because we all have our other jobs, but this definitely helps us to keep going. So we appreciate the members that are in there very much.
True. Yes, I believe it's only $40 a month. By the way, if you got in early, you got a sweet deal that you could lock in pretty much for life. So shout out to all the guys that did that. Y'all are studs. And by the way, for all of our TradFi folks watching out there, if you would like to hire us for professional consultations, go ahead and shoot us an email at wtbndf@gmail.com. And we'll let you know what our hourly rate is.
Nice.
We'll clip this one for in a couple of years. That'll be fun to watch.
That's true. Alrighty, before we get to it, I do want to give a quick shout out real quick. We got some good folks showing up. I see all you guys out there, by the way. Stoked to see everybody. Mr. Brown from the West, aka the Dodgers fan. He's still living high off of that World Series win. He says, when no more poor. And our good buddy Centurion 54X answered by saying, 4 more years. Well, if you listen to 4-Year Cycle Gang, that is what they'll tell you. Although they'll probably tell you, probably 4. Because according to them, cycle low is an end of this year, and then cycle high theoretically should be September of 2030. Wow, it's crazy to think about. Anyways, last but not least, Mr. Marcus trying to keep us accountable here. He says, when start? The answer is now, sir, right now. All right, so let's get into it. If you've been following for the last few weeks, there's a little known thing called the Iran conflict that's been going on, and it appeared that last week we started to see some semblance of a ceasefire, peace negotiations, resolution, de-escalation, whatever you want to call it. But that has led into this week's headline story, which is talking about the markets. And it appears that the markets have reacted rather favorably, by the way. Coming to us from NBC News, the S&P 500 hit an all-time high on Wednesday, and today, by the way, remarking a remarkable turnaround for the broad-based stock index while the war with Iran continues and rising energy costs threaten global prospects. The S&P 500 closed higher by 0.8%, pushing the benchmark past its previous record high of 7,002, which it notched back in January, by the way. Oop, gosh. And now it closed at 722, even higher today. U.S. equities markets have been on a roller coaster since the start of the year. After its January high, the S&P 500 plunged almost 10% to a low of 6,300 on March 30th, driven by the U.S.-Israel war on Iran and the soaring price of oil. But in the 2 weeks since, markets appear to have adjusted to the constant uncertainty of war. Quote, as far as the stock market is concerned, the war is over until further notice, said president of Yardeni Research. That appears to be the broad-based sentiment that I'm seeing out there. So flipping over to our charts, S&P 500, yes, got all the way up to 701 today after the all-time high yesterday. If you actually look at what's going on in Iran, the answer is actually not much. The ceasefire is still in place. It was only for 2 weeks, and they're looking at further talks. Nothing is solidified, but the market's already doing what the market does, which is reacting or trying to anticipate, aka pricing in the news. So that's what we're seeing here. Gentlemen, do you think that the market's going to affect itself?
I'm shocked. I'm not going to say I'm shocked, but I'm shocked at how quickly it snapped back. Because you remember on the show, we were talking about how S&P looked like it was starting to form a nice rolling over pattern. And then we were thinking like, okay, is this the setup for like a potential head and shoulders pattern, right? I mean, we were still holding long because keep in mind while the S&P and major indexes were pulling back, crypto was holding up very well during that time. I guess, and that's why we were alluding to, it looked like crypto had already run out of sellers because the fact that they were holding and major markets were rolling over. And then of course, gold and silver were also rolling over. Keeping in mind, those were people taking profits on a short-term trade that went exacerbated to the upside. But overall, what I thought was very interesting with it is what's crazy is we had a major monster pullback in April. Last year was the bottom. Here we are now, April. Into March, beginning of April is the bottom on this one. And we snapped back and rallied hard. This one's much more violent to the upside, which I think caught a lot of probably short squeeze going on there, certainly in the crypto markets, but short squeeze. But now to have that kind of a snapback, quick reversal, and then break all-time highs, yeah, that caught a lot of people who weren't expecting that. Because typically when it rolls over, you don't see it just snap back like so. That was very violent.
I think you're right about that, Tracker, but I think the exception is the armed conflict component, right? You do see V-shaped recoveries when the downturn is around that sort of a macro event.
Yeah, you're correct. That's correct. But I would say the market was already rolling over prior to that conflict.
Well, for sure, it was pricing it in. That's what it does, right? That's its mechanism. It prices in the future, just like right now, right? It's V-shaped recovering off of the rumor that it might be, that's
it's always forward. I hear you, and I agree with that on the forward thinking. I don't know, the markets were rolling out. I don't remember hearing rumors that we were going to, I didn't know when the conflict and those rumors were starting, but who knows? I mean, the markets were definitely rolling over, but they did. I didn't know, when did the Venezuela thing go down? Was that in January or was that in February?
Was like the second week of January, I want to say.
Okay, so that's a moot point then. It's not tied to that, but who knows? I know there was a lot of rumblings going on right around after Venezuela took place, that there was rumblings that, there could be a conflict brewing in the Middle East with Israel and Iran. So maybe you're right, Dace. Maybe that's exactly what it was. But that's an interesting snapback.
All of the memes that I've seen lately have been saying that we are so back to the early 2000s. Britney Spears is back in headlines. Tiger Woods is having another crash out. War in the Middle East. Divorced Dad Rock is back. I get all of it. But Tracker, you make a really good point there, which is that this is actually one of the most aggressive recoveries that we've seen from any temporary dip in a while. Specifically, if we look back to the great tariff debacle of early 2025, we went down 21%. It definitely took longer to recover that all-time high, though, comparatively when we put on the time scale. This one only went down about 10%, but has already recovered back up pretty much within 8 weeks. This one took well over 12, 15 weeks to get back up to even levels. And then it just kind of continued on. One of the quotes from the NBC article actually was, where are you at? It has also been another momentum-led rebound, similar to last year's explosive rally that started on April 9th when the president postponed the Liberation Day tariffs. And I think we've seen something similar here with the charts, which is that once there was actual news of a recovery, it's almost like kind of collectively the markets have just learned that, okay, we're back to normal, get price back to normal, go quick. And it's just interesting to see it play out in real time.
Yeah, I mean, it snapped back. I just still think, the interesting thing, and during that whole time it was dropping was, I know we're going to be talking more focused on crypto. I think the story is that crypto wasn't getting shook at all by all of this macro events, and it tells me that was the place to be. Now, large risk on is definitely on because the Russell 2000 broke out. Does the Russell 2000 hit a new all-time high too, as well?
You're right. Can't leave that one out of here.
Yep, there it is.
Not all-time highs, but pretty darn close. I'll say that.
When was the last all-time high then?
Last all-time high was right here, 19th of January, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like at the same level.
Okay, I got you.
You're close. You're real close.
Yeah, it's there. But yeah, so risk on. Yep. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it is. I don't know. This is interesting how it's playing out. Of course, we care more about the crypto markets than the overall macro, but we got to understand the macros because that does manipulate the crypto markets because TradFi is here, unfortunately. So that's another variable we got to take into consideration.
Well, and if you zoom out, guys, I don't want to hijack it, the conversation, but I'm wondering if it's pricing in the new Fed chair and a potential change in the winds from the Federal Reserve into things and from the policy into things. Just a thought.
Yeah, but they come in. It's true, but I think the only thing I've heard mainly is like, yes, the new chair is coming in May, but the other thing that's been interesting is, they're more saying that maybe we're not going to cut rates. If anything, we're going to hold them steady, or maybe they could go up. Has been the rumors. So I don't know. Yeah, I know I'll be excited to see the new Fed chair get in because I think the reason why he was elected was to lower those rates so that the United States can reconfigure a lot of debt. And that's going to benefit a lot of other people, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. But yeah, it's possible.
Gosh, I know this sounds absolutely absurd, but I see both arguments, or actually all three arguments rather, for cutting, doing nothing, or raising interest rates. Cutting rates, it's like obviously the president has wanted to cut rates for a while, believes that that's the correct choice. People on the other side of the coin saying we need to raise interest rates to help stave off inflation, get it back down to 2%, actually deal with some of the fundamental issues going on. From what I've seen more of this theory floated, which is that we were suffering from the zero interest rate phenomena for a while, which is that pretty much everything from 2020 through 2023, all that growth was just propped up by zero interest rate money. And the second that we started raising rates, you saw companies start to struggle and realize that they couldn't just get money for free. So I understand that. But at the same time, hear me out. Personally, I think I might be in the middle camp, which is the rates are fine as they are. All the indicators appear to be stable as it stands. Inflation is trending towards the correct trajectory. Unemployment numbers are remaining steady for the most part. But at the same time, job growth is low, but layoffs are also low. So for me, it seems like this weird world where somehow all three answers seem kind of plausible to me.
Well, what if it's not about your cutting of the rates when Marsh gets in, but what if he gets a more easy path to a stimulus? I think Trump's been very overt and very clear multiple times about that being something on his agenda. If he's got somebody at the Federal Reserve to back that play, we might see that actually finally come to fruition.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like it.
Particularly in a state where you are going to keep rates as they are, like you said. It would be keep rates as they are plus stimulus would be the attractive choice on the table, I would imagine, for some people in the White House camp anyway.
It's true. I'd just be curious to see how you physically go about doing that. I mean, theoretically, you can just keep interest rates where they are and then buy up bonds, injecting cash into the market. So that would work, but traditionally we have seen that when rates are lower than where they are right now. But it is a possibility for sure.
Going to be interesting in May, no doubt. Anyway,
Very
didn't mean to take us too far down the rabbit hole.
No worries. Look, I know Tracker's counting down the days until May 15th when Jerome Powell gets his final send off there. Which, by the way, his final FOMC meeting is going to be the end of this month. Looking at the 29th. So mark your calendars. I was talking with Will over on DGen Roundtable, and we're kind of like taking side bets about how the press conference is going to go. Whether it's going to be like a real press conference or is it just Jerome Powell's retirement party, pretty much.
Or kind of like in his last day at work and him just going down telling everybody what he thinks of them all.
Yeah, maybe that could also be the case too. Look, I've seen all the AI unhinged Jerome Powell clips. It would be kind of funny to see a bit of a real one, but knowing this guy, he's pretty steady, so I think that's a bit of a long shot. But oh man, that'd be hilarious. True. Alrighty, gentlemen, let's shift gears here a little bit. Still talking markets, though. Talking about our market, talking about crypto. Alrighty, got the Bitcoin chart. Currently sitting at basically 75K Bitcoin. Had a recent high where we got all the way up there and we touched 76,000. But one of the most important things that we're looking at here is that it's not down. And for people like me who count 60-day cycles, the question about when has the 60-day cycle happen, I think there's a decent argument for actually we had a 51-day cycle and we're going up now. Because if we go with that count, then that means that we are currently on day 19 and we had a high on day 16. I can understand that. And to be honest, it actually lines up decently well with the overall macro markets of like, that's kind of when the S&P 500 started to recover a few days before it, but at the same time, right around the similar area. So that's still happening. But Tracker, as you mentioned at the beginning, the major story here is that it's not going down, which a lot of people have been expecting. And look, crypto's held up very well over the last like 2-3 months effectively. Granted, yes, back in early February, we did drop to the current levels after being around 90K. That has been really the big kind of twist that's been thrown into this. Because if it went the other direction, I bet everybody would be singing very different stories right now. But because we are at the current levels and we're getting this current direction of a bit of an uptrend, haven't broken resistance levels yet. Looking at 76K is a really big resistance level to get through. But there's now the discussion about, okay, is this a small growth or is this actually the bottom? And I think that's really the great debate right now.
Well, like we talked about, what would be the catalyst to make it go down more? I mean, I feel like it's going to, if you've held it this whole time, getting beat up on this drop down, now's the time to sell? Or are you going to sell? You know what I mean? Like your time to sell was back in October. You know, you've ridden this thing down and getting out net. Like we've talked about, there's more risk to the upside than the down. That's where the camp I'm always going to be in.
I would agree, Tracker. I would imagine that people that are sellers right now, if I could try to put myself in their shoes and play devil's advocate towards your and I both personal position, I would say that sellers would probably hold the position that the Clarity Act will not get passed. And so now is the time to get out because the market will tank and lose confidence when the Clarity Act is inevitably killed, and then you can buy back lower. You know, I know that's
that's a narrative there, right?
No, of course. Look, tons of people were calling for 40K Bitcoin a week ago before this rally. I mean, tons and tons and tons of influencers, truly.
If it makes you feel any better, on Twitter today, I saw people calling for $10 XRP when the Crypto Clarity Act passes. That would be a $5 current price. And I'm like, okay, that is also equally unhinged.
God bless the XRP shield people, man. You guys are doing the Lord's work, and you always have. I'm serious. They're an asset to their community, man. They are.
Yeah, they got a strong community. That's one thing they certainly have, and that's probably the biggest. That's the most tangible asset you need actually in crypto is a strong community. But this to say, like, yes, all the influencers out there, I'm gonna say all. I'm gonna say a large majority of all of them. There's not that many people out there that are saying hold or DCA or to hold, any of that stuff. Everyone is telling you to basically that we're definitely going down, and everybody's in that camp. All the big influencers, they're all saying the same narrative. So if everybody in crypto, keep in mind, if they're taking up, let's say 80-90% of people in crypto is the audience, and that's what they're doing, they're taking based off the blue book that they're telling them, then, I feel like that's what goes back to the same narrative. We've run out of sellers. We've exacerbated the sellers. It's been punished, beat down. And all it's going to take is something like the Clarity Act to get passed or something else to get triggered. And it's going to be upside on room. I mean, we just went through a whole conflict in the Middle East that disrupted oil. And it didn't seem like crypto really cared. And
That's so
it's
odd
gonna
to
have
me
to,
as well, because one of the things that I was looking at is miners and what they've been doing. So miners sold heavily in wrong one. Miners sold heavily in quarter one. And those are the people that are energy reliant. Now that we've had a massive energy crisis, why are the people that are energy dependent not driving price down more? And to go back to Tracker, what you said earlier, it's almost the question of like, did everyone sell that was going to sell, or all the people that were able to sell? That's one of the things that it's a bit of a head scratcher. And I know talking about the miners is a bit of a niche thing, but in my personal opinion, it's a bit of an important thing to look at because guess where Bitcoin comes from? It comes from the miners. And
Well, look, Iran was mining a ton of it, and they were mining it at subsidized power costs. They were mining it at $1,600 Bitcoin before we visited them with our freedom. And so, yeah, man, I think that it's that's probably has something to do with this effect of like, oh, why is the Bitcoin price going up now? You know, we probably nipped that in the bud, I would imagine.
I think I'm in a strong camp, sir. I think we run out of sellers, guys. Anybody who thinks we're still going to keep going lower, my thing is this. So and keep in mind when we say crypto people, we're saying more like retail. We're talking more retail here. They're the ones that have been dumping. If you look at the central exchanges, are they dumping? I mean, they've already kind of dumped already what they were going to dump. They have no reason to be dumping at these prices right now. Now, if we get a rally up to say, I don't know, let's call it a good resistance level would be, let's say 80 or 84,000 would be a really good resistance line. If we get up to that thing, could that trigger then people taking profits and cause, kind of a cascading effect where we might blow past the recent lows? Sure, but I think it'll get gobbled up very quickly by the institutions, nonetheless, because they haven't been selling. They're just accumulating hand over fist. Because like we talked about, they're not looking at where the price is going to be in a year from now. They don't care. They're looking at 5, 10 years, 15 years down the road because they see everything that's coming. They see the infrastructure coming.
So the 4-year cyclers need, like you said, a bottom this year. I am curious if we're going to see that. We've seen a lot of other patterns in crypto not hold, and we've seen a few hold. Like you said, it's the only thing that's held so far. And so it will be interesting to see if it, we had, what was it, the correlation with S&P, it broke down. We had the gold correlation broke down for Bitcoin. We had quite a few Bitcoin correlators and indicators and trends that have given up on us this past, like, let's call it 18 months. And so it will be interesting to see if the 4-year cyclers are right. I mean, this is a big moment for those folks for sure, and that's why you see a lot of the mainstream folks saying what they say. They have good reason. They have history to point to, right, for their premise. And so, but I think this time is different, or it has potential to be different from a legal standpoint, for a lot of reasons, right? Because of the amount of Bitcoin that's already out there in the world, and for the level of adoption and technology that Bitcoin can provide versus Ethereum and some of these other coins out here in the world, despite their lack of performance against Bitcoin in the past. Z, I know we brought this up briefly in the green room in the back before we started. It's like, if I'm speculating into the future, I want to pick the thing that is programmable money versus not. That's just me.
Yeah, and I will say this though, I think Tom Lee did a good job when we looked at that presentation he did when he was in Dubai. He gave a good presentation. He kind of debunked the whole 4-year cycle. It's not necessarily you are in a cycle. He's like, but you're in a liquidity cycle. And he overlaid a lot of stuff in there that kind of justified why it kept going into these cycles every 4 years. So whether that's true or not, I mean, that made more sense. And he acted with a lot more data that actually supported it. And if you overlaid it, it just almost fit perfectly. And I think the reason why this one's different is because our quote unquote extended cycles or whatever you want to call it, it's because now you entered TradFi, now you entered shorting and manipulation of the markets through ETFs. And it's a growing market. It's a more maturing market like we've talked about. That's why you didn't get you got kind of a muted rally on the way up. Now I feel like you're going to get a muted drop in the down. It's starting to mature, and I think that's where we're kind of. I think that we're in that camp now. Still digesting it. Clarity Act gets passed. You're going to see things move a lot quicker.
Yeah.
In a lot of areas. So
the big question on that is when. This is a bit of a side note, but it's something I've been thinking about. That one Tom Lee presentation at that Bitcoin conference, I think that's going to age super well. And honestly, I think it's one of possibly the best crypto talks that I've seen in years. So for the folks at home that have not seen it, like it's, what was it, 40 minutes long? We covered probably like half of it. It's honestly very good at bringing down these high level concepts and also introducing new concepts to people. Be like, cool, you thought crypto was Bitcoin and Ethereum and then maybe some staking rewards. No. You don't understand all the possibilities. Here's even just what I came up with when I had shower thoughts. That is pretty much the speech, and he does a fantastic job with it. So please go check it out. Anyways, enough derailment there. But yeah, you gentlemen mentioned the word. I've been trying not to say it because I feel like a clown after been covering it for so long, but fine, here you go. Your Clarity Act timeline, which, by the way, we also have this coming to us from Coin Bureau. The Clarity Act discussions nearly complete. JP Morgan analyst shows negotiations around Clarity Act are nearing a breakthrough as lawmakers resolve key disputes over stablecoin rewards and agency oversight. But this is the one that really kind of caught my eye today. I was like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I'm talking about Clarity Act and how long it's been taking. But nope, I found this guy and I'm like, okay, here is the We're So Close timeline. October of 2025. Across the finish line at the end of the year. Didn't happen. Okay, January. We're so close we can't give up. They were supposed to have markups, which we're still waiting for, by the way, in January. That's when it was really scheduled. February, 80 to 90% chance by the end of April. March, agreement in principle, and we are so close this time. April 1st, very close to a deal. Markup in weeks. We'll note that is April Fool's Day, by the way. And then this week, we're very close to closing them out. I've even seen plenty of articles of people trying to quote Brian Armstrong of Coinbase and be like, yep, we've come to an agreement. It's like, okay, cool. Let's make it happen. I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm certainly in that camp. I'll believe it when I see it as well, because I mean, it's been nothing but a bunch of talk.
True. I'll tell you what. Let's go check on Polymarket and see if anybody made money this week. A little bit. I believe we were down at 58% the last time I saw it. Now we're up at 66, down from 68 earlier this week. So apparently by the end of the year, it is still better than a coin toss. So take with that what you will. Information right there. You can bet on it. I'm just saying. Am I going to bet on it? Absolutely not. I don't trust these people for a second. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts on the market. We've held up really well, even through all of the Iran stuff going on. Pretty much traded sideways for coming on 75-ish days now, and we're starting to see some signs of life. Is it different than where we were in January, or is it just another bull trap before we drop down a leg?
I mean, ultimately, the jury's out. I mean, we don't know. It doesn't. We don't know how it's going to transpire. Anybody tells you they do, they're full of it. But
correct. That is
I would say, yeah. So I would say that we are bottoming out here. Now, could we see another leg down? Sure. But I'm in the camp. I'm more sinister. And I think we always talk about the max pain, right? We got the max pain, and I keep going back to the max pain. And the max pain is TradFi would love nothing more than to not allow prices to get down to that $40,000 or $50,000 lane that everybody's teed up ready to buy. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just say, no, we're the market makers just will make this thing start moving back up and making people have to FOMO back in and pay at higher prices? Because they know if a lot of people are on the sidelines, they will have to step in and eventually buy their bags. Why are they going to let it go down just to load up more? Or are they going to let people get in? I just don't see they're going to let it go in. I think they're going to start. They think they've been building their bags. I think they shook out a lot of people. I think the big institutions have got exactly what they wanted. They had the former SEC chair, he stymied the market for 2-3 years, allowed crypto to go sideways. Then they get ETFs. They've capped off the overall prices on the markets going too high. They're allowing institutions to now get in. They're going to start, tokenization processes going in. All these acts are happening this year. It's allowing all the big institutions to start, basically packing their bags on all these, building up good positions, allowing these treasury companies, Bitwise and all these other companies to come in here and start loading up their bags and filling up their pieces in. So essentially, they're positioned very well. I don't think they have any reason why they would want the market prices to go lower. It doesn't work like that. And if everybody in crypto is saying we're definitely going lower, I'm sorry, man. When has it ever worked when everybody thinks this is going to happen? Typically, when you hear that, you should be getting very nervous. Like, oh man, crap, maybe I'm in the wrong camp if everybody thinks this is going to happen, because typically that's not what happens.
Yeah, I would agree. I think to summarize, I think the 4-year cyclers need the Clarity Act to not get passed to have a good bet for their outcomes, right? To get their 4-year low. I think having it fail would fulfill a lot of the 4-year cyclers' vision for how this year will go. And so if we do get a Clarity Act passed somehow, I think it would really, I don't think that 4-year trend is I think if it breaks, it'll break violently. And I think you'll have a pretty serious run to the upside. And so, it is an inflection point, and it depends upon whether the powers that be can come to a mutual agreement about, what's going to be best for both parties. I think those are probably levels of conversation that we will never know about or take part in, sadly. It'd be fascinating to hear what's going on at those levels of conversation regarding stablecoin yield and the dynamics in terms of how we, the people, get to use our money. And so, yeah, it's I personally am in the camp of them getting it done and the trend breaking. But I think that I'm also in a bit of the other side of the boat than most folks. Me and Tracker are both happy to hold our altcoins and be wrong, I think, and continue to be patient, because we are bullish long term in the thesis of what we're in and what we're doing here. But yeah, I think that the poly market odds are always interesting to look at. You see lots of stories of insiders making lots of good money on political news, and this is a political finance, listing on poly market, and so the insiders will be out. There's no doubt about it.
That's fair.
One other thing in here, just to put in a caveat in here. Watch the ETH to Bitcoin ratio. Bitcoin ratio has been holding up beautifully. So ETH has been gaining ground on Bitcoin. It's been steadily climbing, higher lows, higher highs. Just keep an eye on that as well.
True. Well, Dace, like you said, I think you are on the side where you're like all signs point towards going up. And believe me, I'm right there looking at all signs pointing up. However, I'm also the guy that's on here saying I'm going to assume the trend is going to hold until I get confirmation that it doesn't. And the trend that's holding right now is 4-year cycle theory. So theoretically, assuming that is correct, it means that there will be a lower than $59,000 Bitcoin sometime around December of this year. What we do in the meantime, who knows? We kind of saw this last cycle during the lows, where early on, probably like March, April timeframe, it looked like we hit a low of about I want to say it was like $16,000 or $17,000 Bitcoin. Saw a rally, saw another correction, and then actually a smaller rally. And then ultimately at the end, we saw the FTX collapse happen, where we got the true low of $15,700 Bitcoin. So
we could both be right. What if we get a $59,000 Bitcoin, and in that same time period, Ethereum revisits its high on the ETH BTC ratio chart, and we get a $5,900 Ethereum at a 0.1 ETH BTC ratio. That's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it'd be very interesting, and it would keep your 4-year theory intact. We'd both be right.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not uncharted territory on the ratio charts, right? I mean, 0.08 and then 0.14, I think, were the last two all-time highs on that chart. If you go back to 2017, and so. Or maybe even earlier than that, it'd be wild to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, but also look at it this way though. ETH could actually go up while Bitcoin goes down because the Clarity Act is paving more for tokenization. I think that's where most of the We talked about
Yep.
Metcalfe's law and the explosion there, and that Tom Lee video. We talked about how he broke it down and explained, how TradFi will try to track how many assets are on the Ethereum chain. That's going to bring in more visitors. That'll drive the price up on the Ethereum network. So ETH has much more potential to the upside than Bitcoin.
Particularly around Clarity. If we get Clarity Act passed, Bitcoin might still play out its 4-year cycle, and meanwhile Ethereum, regains a cycle after dropping one.
You guys are spinning ideas here that would throw me and other people through an absolute loop the similar way that we had the top of this last cycle, if that's the way it is. Imagine this. The scenario that you are proposing is that Bitcoin finds a low, Ethereum continues to move up. That means that traditionally Bitcoin is the first mover. Not this time. Ethereum's the first mover and the biggest mover. In which case, it's the reverse of the top of this last cycle, which is that Bitcoin was the only thing that moved and nothing else went up. It'd be a slightly more positive version of what we just experienced, but that would mess with people so hard. Again, and all of the traditional theories that we have for the crypto markets, which is like Bitcoin's move first, large caps, altcoins, that kind of stuff. Sometimes maybe Bitcoin moves up, all the other stuff bleeds too heavily. No. This time, Ethereum's the winner. Everyone else can suck it.
Well, look, unless you subscribe to the Michael Saylor theory that Bitcoin's going to go to $30 million a coin, then it makes more sense than that. Like, coins revisit their ratio positions. That's a thing that happens. And so, if the most powerful country in the world passes legislation that runs on it and not Bitcoin, why are we surprised? We'll see.
Well, I know we'll dive into this later on DeFi Llama. We're going to talk about that'll break down. I think there's some really cool stuff to dive in there, but we're not going to get into it yet. But what I think is interesting, and I still look at it like simple as this: Ethereum is what Google was to the internet. That's how I'm going to state it. I'll still hold that position.
I think
Ethereum Foundation needs to send us a check, Tracker. Needs to send us a check.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'd have to go hang out with Vitalik then. Maybe we'll teach him to hit the gym and start taking creatine or something.
Funny.
True. Alrighty.
Look, is it likely? Who knows? I do think, like I said, that Clarity Act will be more bullish for Ethereum than Bitcoin. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I'm willing to say that. I don't know.
I think you're absolutely correct. Because realistically, so the main proposition for Bitcoin: buy, sell, hold, buy ETFs. Ethereum, you have everything else built on top of it. Like we talked about, we'll get to the DeFi Llama chart here in a sec.
Hold on. But Zena, just say it simple for everybody out there to understand. Bitcoin, everybody says the store of value. Just look at it. Bitcoin is used to hedge inflation. And not just hedge, but the scarcity of it, because if everybody's rushing to it to know that's a legitimate hedge, that's what causes the price to really go up. It's supply and demand. That's all it is. Bitcoin's at a pretty much capped, very finite amount. Thus, that's why it gets that market, the digital gold, which I hate that comparison because gold's still being mined out of the ground. Yeah, Bitcoin is, but it's mostly the entire, what's the percentage left of Bitcoin to be mined? It's minuscule. So I don't think that's really a good debate when you compare gold and actual Bitcoin. But like you were stating, Zenith, Ethereum, I'll let you finish that thought. I'm sorry for cutting you off, man, but I know
you're good.
Ethereum has everything that everybody wants to do. Tokenize everything, put everything on Ethereum. It's in one network that can actually handle that band load. It's reliable, all these things, and most companies are starting to build on it. There are other ones out there that are starting to get that do have some stuff on them too, but we can cross that bridge when we talk about it. But really, Ethereum is, when we looked at total value locked on Ethereum, I want to say it made up 50 billion total value, total locked versus a market that has 75 billion, somewhere in that ballpark. So they have,
I think the last time we looked at it, Ethereum was 53 billion out of a $92 billion market. It was well over half. Not like, not like 2/3 quite, but significantly above 50%. By the way, we have 1 million Bitcoin left to mine. Fun fact, out of 21 million possible.
Okay, so that's a pretty good chance. That's a pretty good solid amount. So maybe, so I'll take that back. Maybe it does actually align with gold very much better than. That's fair.
The issuance is so small that it's going to take till like 2050 or something, I think, to finish it.
2140 actually.
2140.
It's less than 5%.
Off by 100 years.
Yeah, so it's less than 5% supply. 4.7.
if you go by our linear time scale, you're kind of off. But as like the logarithmic curve, which it's based on, remember that's the structure for it. It's not straight line. It is we approach this number, and the closer
The
you get to
halvening.
that
The
number,
halvening.
the slower it gets.
Right.
Yeah. But all right, fine. I'll finish my thought. And we can get on to the next topic. I think that principally, by principles, what I have to say is that if 4-year cycle is correct, which it appears to be so, despite overwhelming macroeconomic signals showing that assets are going to be massively booming very soon, if not have already started to climb. But the 4-year cycle, which appears to be the crypto cycle that is holding, it assumes that there's going to be a low sometime in late 2026. So it's possible we go down. And in the meantime, we could chop sideways, maybe go up a little bit, and then have one final big black swan event to hit that final button before we go towards the upside. And by the way, I might not be alone on this one. Just Live is tuning in here. He says it's going to zero, all of it. Also, he's betting on an Antichrist to rise in Iran. Kidding. Yeah. Look, going to zero is something that we've kind of always assumed, especially just from like the investment philosophy of like the money we put into crypto, like we're okay losing it because we know that we're financially well off. We're making good decisions. We're not trying to like gamble and bet. It's not what we do here. But look, we've talked about this in the past a while as well. As it stands right now, it seems that there's a lot more upside than downside with getting into the market at current prices, especially with a decent DCA strategy. But then again, that's not financial advice. Alrighty. Tell you what, gentlemen. Tracker, this is actually you. We have a post from some guy. Who is this some guy?
Oh, so Justin's son. Which what coin did he actually own? That one that got he's kind of a shady character. He's had some interesting things that have happened to him in the past, but we'll pass that up. But basically, he's calling out World Liberty Finance, which is owned by the Trump family and other investors. And basically, the bluff story here is they basically locked up a good chunk of his funds, and he wants them to release who the EOA is. Basically, who's the single guardian. There is a DAO there, but he wants to know who the actual single guardian is, because that one person can literally lock people out of their own their crypto. They can lock it, very much like how Tether has done it, how USDC has done it to others. They can basically, they have I don't want to call it a blacklist function, but essentially that's what it is. They can put an address out there and then lock those funds up that you have in your wallets, and it's no longer it's not it's just dead. It's completely ceased. And he's calling out because of the fact that they froze. I forgot, how much did they freeze of his money? It's quite a bit.
Trying to find the number.
It's in there. It's in the millions. I know that.
Oh yeah, it's a large chunk of change. That is for sure. I don't know if it's on this one. I'll try to find it, but we have the original tweet, and we also have this article coming to us from Reuters, which, by the way, World Liberty investor Justin Sun claims Trump crypto venture secretly installed the tool to freeze users' holdings. Major investor in World Liberty Finance has claimed that they secretly implemented a tool to unilaterally freeze and restrict private holdings of the World Liberty Finance token.
107 million.
Okay, that is not a small chunk of change. That is
Say that again, Days.
107 million.
A lot.
Dang.
That's wild. But yes, in the post on X, he was saying that they secretly had embedded what he has described as a backdoor blacklisting function in the blockchain-based contracts used for tokens. Okay, let's swap back over to X and see what he says. I am calling on World Liberty Financial to publicly disclose who controls the single guardian EOA and the 3 out of 5 multi-sig that govern the smart contract. Every investor has the right to know who holds the power to freeze their assets. Here is what goes on. Here is what on-chain records show. A single guardian EOA, which also sits on the multi-signature, blacklisted my wallet. That same address is the sole owner of a second guardian safe with a threshold of 1. This means one person, one single individual, has the unilateral power to freeze any token holder's assets. Seizing those assets also requires a 3 of 5 multi-sig vote, but freezing requires only one signature. Who is that
That's
person?
the key. That's the key, and that's what he wants. Now, somebody had replied in there. It was really funny though. Of the 3 of the 5 SIGs, it's basically the Trump family. It's Trump, his sons, and all this other stuff. But they are on the board. They're the big people on the board. So only one can assume. But he wants people to release. Okay, who has the kill switch for the blacklist?
I think that is a very fair question to ask, especially considering that it appears that the stance that World Liberty Finance has taken is more aligned with DeFi than traditional finance. And this is the big point that you brought up, which is that is this a World Liberty Finance story, or is this realistically more of a beware of fake DeFi story?
To me, it's more of that, because to me, this is DeFi. You got to be careful in DeFi. So central exchanges can, when you're dealing on a central exchange or through a portal of some sort, like a central exchange, it's just like a bank. You don't technically own that you don't own it. Even though you think you do, you really don't. Once you hand it over to the institution, they have rights, legal rights, where they can act. If they need to keep it, they can keep it. That's just how the world works. Same thing with a bank. There's other things with the FDIC and others in the TradFi and all that. I get that part, but
I was going to say the
really,
existence of FDIC actually proves your point.
okay, yeah. So there you are. But your money is backed in finance if there's some issue that goes wrong. That's the key there in traditional finance. The problem though is if an entity goes under, like a bank, a good example, if it goes under completely and your funds are in there, your funds are gone. You might be able to work out some type of smaller percentage payment during the liquidation process or something like that potentially, but ultimately those funds are not yours. Once you do it, the entity owns them. So in this case, you're saying DeFi. So when we're talking DeFi, we're talking about decentralized, not centralized that we just talked about. It's decentralized. So it should be open to the public, and that stuff is you own the keys. It's your crypto. But these have kill switches where whether or not you have those coins or not in your wallet, they can deactivate them. Kill those coins that you hold. So now you don't have them essentially, or they're deactivated. They're dead money. That's not DeFi. That's shady.
Yeah. In this case, they're frozen where you can't move your money even though it's in your wallet. Because it's on their chain.
Correct. So that's DeFi. So that's DeFi with a kill switch. So that's more like, it's not DeFi. It's more of a central exchange feature or a banking feature, which the big institutions love to have that type of control over people. This is the big boogeyman that everybody talks about with, digital IDs, 2030, all this stuff we talk about sometimes, but that's the big concern people have. So true DeFi wouldn't have that. So what he's saying is, hey, if you're real DeFi, you don't have a problem disclosing this because you have a feature here that people need to be aware of if you're an investor, but you don't disclose and tell anybody that. So when this happens, he's using this obviously to not only maybe bring enough heat to them, but to also maybe get his funds back, but also try to work this out and use it as an opportunity. Because keep in mind, he does own the Tron. He founded Tron. So Tron crypto, a huge market cap in Tron. Tron's a big coin out there. He also acquired BitTorrent. So he's been around a little while here. He's a big guy. He also, I don't know if people remember, but he also was famous. He paid $4.5 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett. So he's definitely does some celebrity type stuff out there. He's definitely a character that some people like, some people don't like, but he's just an Instagram scan himself. That's what it's happening.
That's fair. By the way, depending on how large your investment account is, a $4.5 million with Warren Buffett, $4.5 million lunch with Warren Buffett. I wonder what the ROI on that might be.
I hope he got some really good inside information of somebody who had 60 years of experience. But it was kind of funny too. It also took place during 2020 during COVID. Just a side note, I thought that was really funny. But yeah, so this guy's he's a founder and CEO of Tron. So it's not like his estimated net worth is $1 to $3 billion. So he's got a little bit of change. Okay. So
even assuming that he's worth $3 billion. Gosh, that's like 1 billion to have 33 million locked up would be roughly like, so he effectively has like 3% of his net worth at best or at worst locked up with
right
this one. That's kind of wild, actually.
And most of his funds are tied to Tron Holdings for the most part. But just to back that up, though, so if he paid money to be with Warren Buffett, obviously that is and he's probably rubbed shoulders with a lot of big, powerful people, investors around the world. So he probably was also looking at this as an opportunity to, hey, I'm going to invest and support the current president's, investment endeavors into crypto. Good political move, good PR move for him. And now all of a sudden he gets blacklisted. So the question now is like, okay, listen, I thought I was trying to support you guys, and now you guys are blacklisting myself. Okay, you guys have to come to the table and talk. Like, what is up here? So he's using the media to kind of bring it out and to bring home this. So like I said, but the real story here is be very careful on what kind of coins you own and hold, because they can kill it out here, essentially. And we already know how much money like Tether has locked up. Tether has shot a lot of stuff down as well.
That's true. I think one of the big secondary order effect kind of ideas that I'm having from this one is that, okay, who does this affect? Obviously, Justin Sutton, RIP your money. Sorry, dude. Hopefully it gets unfrozen. It really only affects people that are invested with World Liberty Financial. But the second order effect that I'm thinking about here goes farther than this. Okay, World Liberty Financial is deeply tied into the Trump administration, the president, who is going to ultimately be the final signature for the Clarity Act.
But hold on, just to make it clear here, they are very closely tied. He is the CEO of the World Liberty Finance, and his sons are other chair board holders. So I mean, yeah,
Correct,
the Trump
which
family
is-
owns it. It's huge. It's just definitely it's definitely a conflict of interest a little bit. Just saying.
That might make the second half of this even more damning, which is if you are a DeFi person, and this allegedly is a DeFi company tied to who appears to be the most DeFi president that's ever existed. If you're looking to the president to sign off on the legislature that's going to be governing crypto, and this is the way that the company is run, is it too much of a stretch to believe that the way the legislation is going to be written and approved is going to be in a similar manner? I don't think it's too crazy, but
How so? Whoa, how so? That there is allowed to be a kill switch?
I don't know if it's going to be specifically that, but I think it's more of like the mentality and showing the understanding of the people holding the reins of power and what their understanding of crypto and DeFi is. Because if they believe that this is DeFi with all of this stuff, which it's not, by having a single failure point, that is not DeFi, by the way. But if they believe that is DeFi and that's what they're pushing, then it's like, it seems that they're kind of like, they got crypto pilled, but they didn't get DeFi pilled. They like crypto and what it can do for them, but they don't really believe in like decentralized finance tenets and the base principles. That's what I'm saying.
Of course not. Absolutely, they don't. And I'm not trying to make this a political thing, but the people in power want to keep everything centralized 100%. So why would you want DeFi floating around? Because now as a government, I can't track that. I can't tax it. I want to be able to tax every transaction that goes on. So I don't want that out there. But here's the thing the US needs to understand. If you don't have some type of DeFi, or if you just let this go, guess what? It's going to pop up in other countries. Other countries will be more than happy to have those things set up in their country. And DeFi is borderless. So there's that.
Very true.
And now you could go into then you get into the whole cybersecurity. Okay, are you really masking yourself with a VPN and all this other stuff? Right? Are you still going to have some type of? Are they going to use more like cyber tracking on the crypto? No, not really dive into the cryptography, but growing across the networks to really know where everybody lives, like, and truly crack everything. Because let's be clear here, there's not a VPN out there that they can't surpass. There's not an encryption media platform that they haven't got. I mean, we know about that with Telegram was probably the last one on the block, and then of course the CEO is arrested in France, and all of a sudden he's released afterwards. So there's all these conspiracies about this, but that's the thing though, all these events keep taking place. So if you're a believer that the United States certainly has the power and the networking and the technology to certainly track where everybody is if they want. But once again, money is going to go where it's treated best. And people who have money trust me, the people who have real money, they got dual citizenships. They can go to other countries. Money's going to go away. So they got to be very careful how they play this game. And I think they understand that now, because they tried to kill crypto and they started seeing it pop up in other areas, like in Dubai and in other areas. Like I know El Salvador, but believe it or not, crypto is really big in South America. Like it's very common down there and in Central America as well. Mainly any countries that have major inflation. Keep in mind, the United States does not have high inflation compared to many countries around the world. So
Do you remember an article that we covered? It was probably like 6 months ago, but there was one country in South America that had its currency deflate by nearly 100% in one calendar year, and they started
Probably
switching over.
Argentina. It's probably
That's what it was.
Argentina.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Argentina. So down there in a lot of these countries, what they'll do is they get paid and then they convert it to crypto the day they get a paycheck because their currency is so worthless because
That's
it's
wild.
losing money like every day. So that's why crypto is much more a store of value in that case. But I guess what I'm saying is, United States, this is a dangerous line. They cannot beat it up too much. They're going to have to let it go. But what I'm ultimately saying here is, they are never going to come out and just disclose, hey, we got a kill switch here. Nobody is going to market anything like that. Only we'll call them the DeFi or crypto nerds like ourselves that are heavy into this stuff, and the people who are watching who actually give a damn about this stuff are going to know about it. 99.9% of the other crypto investors out there are not going to have a clue about this, because most of them are just going to say, hey, the central exchange, I heard this crypto, I'm going to buy this. They're not going to understand how this is all intricately working. So be aware. And this is a great thing. This is going to be a story I want to see transpire. I want to hear the rebuttal. I'd love to hear what the Trump family has to say about it, or whoever's handling their PR from their area. Have they even spoken or replied to it? That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. And by the way, you raise a really good point, which is that in the digital age, money is going to go where it's treated best. And I understand we're extrapolating pretty far away from the original story at this point, but with the way it's looking, I kind of see that the US is set up in a position right now where they can either take first place in the crypto race or they can take like fifth or sixth. What I mean by that is that if laws get implemented here for the crypto industry, it's going to be a big boon. But it's going to open the door for other places that are DeFi native. If they go that full direction and they actually like commit to it, money's going to flow to those directions. And the US is almost going to kind of look at like a stepping stone for the crypto industry, which is, this is where they got their big break, but then they really hit it big somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Not to steer it away, but some of the comments are funny. Justin Live 9304. Who would you pay $4 million to have a lunch with? Living or dead? He says that.
Oh my gosh. That's true. Oh my gosh. $4 million. Well,
living or dead. Or how about not born yet? I'd like to talk to the guy who can tell me the future of what to invest in. That's going to be the moneymaker going forward. That's a great question. I don't know. I'd have to think on that one.
Tracker wants to go to lunch with Biff from the future.
There you go.
Get that sports almanac on your hand.
Bring back the almanac. There we go.
Yeah, man.
Ooh, what a ripoff. Oh gosh. That's a tough question. Immediately my brain's like, oh man, so many historical figures. But at the same time, I don't want to sound too arrogant with this, but I think choosing historical figures is kind of a rough thing, because it's like you only get the knowledge of that person in the context of their history. So it would be cool to go talk to like Socrates, but at the same time, we've evolved way past Socrates and we have so much more evolved like thinking when it comes to morals and philosophy and stuff like that. So, I mean, honestly, probably I don't want to talk to the AI guys. They don't sound useful. I'm not going to lie. And I'm serious. Funny. They sound like space aliens. I'm just saying.
You want to go to have lunch with Elon?
Elon might be different. Elon's a different one. Elon is actually like the guy that like when he wants to do things, he just goes and does it. Granted, he also built up a massive war chest that allows him to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. But he's going to like, hey, I want an electric car. Boom. Tesla's founded. Hey, we should go to space. SpaceX is founded. AI looks pretty cool.
The closest thing on Elon, but the closest thing on Elon, you could go watch some of the Joe Rogan interviews. He did 3-hour interviews with him. They dive into all types of stuff. If you really want to pick his brain on a lot of stuff, he dives into a lot of heavy stuff. It's really good interviews.
By the way, Just Live is saying Alexander the Great could be a good one. That would be pretty banging. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to be conquering all of the Mediterranean in anytime soon. But that'd be a good pick. Honestly, hear me out. I think Justin's son might have found the correct answer.
Warren Buffett. But keep this in mind. I mean, Warren Buffett, he made his money by looking at companies that, I mean, let's face it. He figured out a way to know what companies were valuable, even though most people weren't looking at them, right? He just had a way of looking at it. Yes, the balance sheet and all this other stuff. I get that. but he had a way to do that. Now, once he got to a certain point of status, he could get deals that nobody else could get. Like he would get there, hey, listen, I'm going to buy a big chunk in your company, but I'm not paying the price that your stock is. You're going to give me a major discount. So you'd get like a 10, 15, 20% discount and be a big shareholder. So you get a much more sweetheart deals when you got that kind of money to flip around.
That's true.
And the insider information he gets is probably insane.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Warren Buffett did fantastic over the last, 30, 40 years. I don't know if he's going to be great for the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Not even just excluding his age and stuff, but just the wisdom and how the markets are moving. Because honestly,
he's a weird cat. He's a weird cat, though, man.
If you told Warren Buffett like 20 years ago how the market was going to be moving today, he'd probably look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, he'd probably say, nah, maybe in 500 years, maybe.
Try explaining NVIDIA to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But he's
no
a
doubt.
very simple guy, though. He still lives in the same house. Still wears the same thing. He doesn't change. Money has not really changed him and how he lives his life. It's interesting.
Look, gentlemen, I'll just say, I've made it if I start going out and buying a golf course. Other than that, probably going to keep on doing all the rest of the same stuff. True.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can look to the past, right, to gain the wisdom.
Jeremy.
You can look into the people in the present to, to try to glean information about the future. I think, it's like you said, you're encapsulated by the person in the past's own time. I think Socrates, obviously, being a great pick if you're going to go with like old thinkers. Heidegger, Nietzsche, like you've got some interesting thinkers to go talk to, but like they're not going to help you with the markets. They might help you get smarter. But yeah, you got to pick, like you said, maybe some of the AI guys you don't want to talk to, in terms of to glean the right angle for the future, who knows?
Yeah, way to keep me in check. You're probably correct on that.
I'll tell you something that'd be pretty interesting is the founding member of the Rothschilds in the 1750s would be an interesting person to talk to. He had a way to build up relationships with powerful people, and then of course he did a lot of backstabbing and manipulation of people. But as far as like that, he'd be an interesting cat. JP Morgan would be an interesting fellow to interview as well.
Ooh,
Machiavelli was going to be on my short list in the same general club.
that would be a really interesting one. Yeah, we covered The Prince over on Book Club. That was an interesting read. Some good stuff to take away, but at the same time, not exactly trying to rule a nation state in the 1400s.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's important information to know. It's not so much like personally implementable, but it's a lay of the land that I think is useful when you're thinking in certain lanes. I think it's a good book.
Yeah, the Medicis would also be a good one. Go ask them why they stole. It was either Da Vinci or another famous person from the time period. When the guy died, the Medici family didn't like that they didn't get his remains, so they went and stole it and buried it in the graveyard near their palace. It was wild. All right, very good tangent, just live. Way to make us run late on the show tonight, but we got a few more things we want to cover real quick before we get out of here. Alrighty, up first, Mr. Dace brought this one to my attention. By the way, for all the Pulse Chain and Hexagons out there, this is what we're looking at: Liberty Swap. The good guys with Liberty in their name. Stable Swap, ZKX wallet, and their new yield platform all launching this month. And this came out on the 15th. So, Dace, what are we looking at here?
Well, look, I mean, I think you're looking at a full suite of products, right? From onboarding to privacy to storing your value to swapping to offboarding, right? Between ProveX launching, the ZKX wallet that's coming out, and all these other products, I think you're fleshing out one of the most truly decentralized in many ways, right? There's lots of ways that things can be centralized and decentralized. Richard Hart's critics would say that because he owns the supply, it's a centralized situation. I have my own, that's its own tangent. In many other ways, Pulse Chain is the most decentralized chain that there is. And so whether you're looking at validators, or you're looking at, there's a couple of other metrics that you look at, but that's the big one, is the diversity of the validators is pretty strong. And I think you've got like I said, a full package and a full pitch that's being developed. In 2020, Hex was released, and the pitch was the yield. It was 38% APY. That was the pitch. I think when you have these products all come out, particularly if they happen to be timed up with Clarity Act, right? The pitch would be a full service top to bottom, privacy centric, decentralized platform. And I think that seems to be the vision that they're getting at. You know, I helped a good friend of mine onboard the Liberty Swap here just today, new onboard, who, you know, doesn't have a lot of familiarity with other DeFi protocols. And Liberty Swap has definitely made it far easier to onboard a new person to Pulse Chain than it was when Pulse Chain launched. And so I think that this is more steps in the same direction towards, you know, greasing the wheels and making it easier for people to get done the things they want to get done.
Yeah, Liberty Swap has got some serious things cooking. Like Richard Harder, don't like him. It's irrelevant here. Pulse Chain has been building a true DeFi environment where it's up. It's never gone down. It's been highly reliable. Everything has been built that has done what's supposed to be, and there's a lot of smart people in there building a lot of stuff. A lot of people don't hear about Pulse Chain and all this because it's a small, it doesn't have a lot of money tied to it that's going to compete with these large macro ones. Now, Hex made a huge news when it started competing with the top 10. And of course, it's gotten beat down dramatically since then, but it's also been stretched out pretty thin. But the reason why all this has happened is Hex had to break away because the Ethereum fees were insane and it was killing the staking features. That's why Pulse Chain was invented, which is just a copy of Ethereum. Now, what Dace hinted on, the biggest thing that I found so far, the biggest thing to me right now is the onboarding, offboarding. That's a game changer. You can now come from your bank straight into Pulse Chain. Before, you had to go send your money from a bank to a central exchange, wait for that money to get there, go from central exchange, bridge it over to a wallet. And then once you had it on a wallet, then you had to bridge it into freaking Pulse Chain. So that's a lot of jumping in steps, a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. Now it's strictly bank straight to Pulse Chain. That's huge. That's massive in offboarding. There's, I don't, and maybe I could be wrong, but I don't know of any other DeFi chain that allows onboarding and offboarding, true on and offboarding, that you're bypassing a central exchange. I really don't know.
I don't know if you can use your card on Phantom. I'm not a big Solana person. I know that they have their situation is decentralized and centralized in very different ways, right? Like I said, there's different ways for it to be centralized, decentralized. Their wallet acts really quickly because it's very centralized in some ways. So I don't know if you can purchase directly onto it. I bet that would be a killer feature for them if that's possible, but I don't even know.
That would be killer. But gosh, I will say the Pulse Chain crowd, especially the builders over there, they never cease to amaze me. Even despite everything that's going on, people are still building, people are making cool stuff, and people are still working on everything over there.
And the community is strong, man. There's tons of influence, tons of people still cranking out content and doing stuff. We don't talk about Pulse Chain as much because I feel like there's so much coverage in the community. I mean, we've all been there since Hex. I mean, we've all been there, all of us here. So we're huge proponent and supporters, and we definitely are cheerleading for it to try to go as far as it can, but we'll see.
Thank you, Brown. Yes,
Hex is a fan scam.
I'm gonna go buy some more now.
Well, I mean, if you believe in here's the thing about any altcoins now, any projects that you still have faith in and the fundamentals are still intact, forget about the price. If you feel that they're still intact, then why wouldn't you be DCing in anything right now at these just ridiculously low levels? Just, if anything, to lower your dollar cost average, thus getting you, it doesn't have to run as far to get back to where you were to try to break even, if that's what your goals are, or to even make money more in the long haul. So yeah, putting money in at these levels now are nothing. There's no shame in that by any means. Like you said, best time to buy is when nobody wants it. That's the lowest risk time. So I will say that. But yeah, Liberty Swap's definitely doing a lot. I know on our membership, some people have been asking for it, and I'd like to jump through that. I think on our membership, we're going to go through a video for the members. We're going to go through and we're going to show you how to basically, how does that work? Because Days, I'd love to go over that with a video. It probably has it out there. We can go walk through it. We'll critique it. We'll talk about it. Onboarding onto Liberty Swap, straight on there, onboarding, offboarding. But there's other caveats that we shared in there with the members about more safety and being more private about it if you want. So there's other steps you'd want to take take and jump through it, which could be pretty interesting to dive into, because that would bring in other technologies that exist already. But so a lot of cool stuff in there.
Yes. So stay tuned for the Pulse Chain stream in the Telegram. It is coming very soon, by the way. Alrighty. Speaking of other technologies and somewhat in the same vein, got an article from Tracker here. Looks like Charles Schwab is getting in on the game. So Charles Schwab on Thursday today introduced its long-awaited crypto investing product, making Bitcoin and Ether trading available to clients as the gap between traditional finance and digital assets narrows. The move places the brokerage in direct competition with companies like Robinhood, which serves a comparatively younger clientele and also offers stock and crypto investing. I will say, I think I might be one of the younger people that has a Charles Schwab account still. So that comment is, I would argue, accurate.
Save your 401k, swap it into Bitcoin.
Well, they used to have these old commercials back in the 80s where they would say, like, when Charles Schwab's talk, everybody shuts up and listens. Those really cheesy ones back in the late 80s, 90s. Yes, I'm dating myself. It's okay.
I remember, I was probably like a teenager when I saw the last of the Charles Schwab commercials that I can remember. But I feel like they had a pretty good marketing presence back in the early 2000s, even into the 2010s. But anyways, so Tracker, why did you bring this article to our attention?
Well, it's the first time I've heard anybody in TradFi, especially a TradFi brokerage company, saying, we're going to launch our own central exchange, essentially. And that's what they're doing. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, truly what the fundamentals of it are. And is it like they're saying it's going to be spot Bitcoin spotty. So it's the actual products itself. Now, keep this in mind. There's other companies out there who have been doing this that most people tend to even probably heard of. I don't know. I forgot the company. I used to be in it a while back, but you could use like retirement funds, and you could use it like an IRA, and you could buy actual crypto and gold and silver, but it was like a central exchange, and it was around for a long time. That's actually, it was pretty cool. Not many people really knew about that one. It was interesting. It worked really well, and I had great success with it. But this is the first time I'm seeing a big TradFi company saying, you know what, we're not going to partner with this central exchange. We're not even going to do it. We're just going to do it ourselves. We think we can do this. So that's interesting.
The kind of the big asterisk for me on this one is the comparison to Robinhood, because we covered this when we did our Crypto 101 segment talking about the different centralized exchanges. Robinhood is different from someone that sells you ETFs versus like Coinbase, who can sell you spot. They're this weird in between, which is that they've been offering spot, but it's even worse than a centralized exchange because they don't. It's like one layer removed from actually having access to the tokens. Because if you go through Robinhood as of now, or even a handful of years ago, you could buy and sell stocks and crypto. But if you want to do anything with those assets outside of their platform, they have to go through an entire clearinghouse and then send you that stuff before you can access it. So it's like ETFs are obviously you are buying into a fund that someone else is buying crypto with. This is one step above that, but still below self-custody, even on the central exchange scale, which is why, to me, it's odd that it's being compared to Robinhood. Also, partly because we just don't have all the full details on this one yet. They could come out tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, no, it's spot. Or they could be like, yeah, we just meant ETFs. We don't know yet, but this is a very specific middle ground that they appear to are choosing to navigate, which is something to chew over for when it comes to me.
Does it allude any further down as far as like whether or not they're going to allow you to self-custody? I would assume that's the reason why it is going to be like, well, they did say Coinbase. Didn't they say it was going to compete with Coinbase, obviously? I'm just curious now how it was going to work. Does it say anything in here like you're going to be able to own it?
Nope, that's it.
So it's possible that might be it. So if you really want to own it, you may not be able to own it. It's going to be just basically you could trade and sell the price of it all, and then they have it on books. So maybe that's what it comes down. Maybe it's going to be traded more like an ETF.
That's honestly probably the best way to put it, is that you're trading the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're going to start coming out with products on here. So TradFi is already starting. So does that sound like with all of these companies, and this is one example of thousands, of companies getting these products ready and doing this rabbit hole if we think Clarity Act's not going to get passed anytime soon. They're all moving in this direction. It's going to happen.
This one is unique to me because they're not explicitly going for ETFs. The ETF craze was pretty much all that we've been talking about for the last like 3 years, effectively. To see this, and they're specifically not using the ETF language, that's something else. That's why I'm particularly interested in this one.
That's what I'm kind of going with, is that everything's evolving, and why are companies pumping money into these products and doing these things and changing and moving towards tokenization and all this other stuff if they don't know something already? Like they know pretty closely what's happening. They have a lot of their lobbyist friends there. They know what's happening, so they know most likely what's going to be the outcome. They may not be able to tell you.
Yeah,
What's
X
that?
Money is also coming out. Elon's
Yeah.
about to drop his own X Money platform as well, and so you've got the new school and the old school both putting stuff out at the same time. I don't think that's an accident.
No, they I think it's just safe to say is that they know this is coming. They couldn't tell you maybe it's going to be past this month or maybe in a month and a half from now, but they know it's coming very soon.
That's true. The X Money one is an interesting kind of segue on this, or it's related as well, which is like we're starting to see this stuff evolve. We saw the ETFs, now we're seeing Charles Schwab put up this stuff. And Dace, like you mentioned, the X Money is supposed to be coming out April 2026, which last I checked, oh yeah, this month, and they got basically 15 days to do it.
They'll get it done. Dude,
yeah, man. Look,
launches rockets in outer space. They can pull it off.
Liberty Swap has also said that they're going to be launching a new staking feature of in April, and so yeah, you have a lot of people launching stuff in the next, like you said, 15 days, 14 days.
It's true, but Dace, I think you really have a great point in the green room, which is Charles Schwab one of the largest like money managers around? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, X realistically is where you get the most up-to-date and the most raw news sources possible. You know who loves that kind of information? Markets and traders. And, well, if the same platform that offers them that information also offers them the ability to trade on it, arguably that opens up the market space even more.
Yeah, man. How long until it says X Money announces PerpDex? X Money announces, prediction markets. I mean, why is Elon not going to compete with those folks if it's just more code? Like, of course he's going to compete with them. Why would you not?
Yeah, he's got all the eyeballs. He's got the community. He's got all the
correct. The community is the asset.
Yeah, he's got all the customers already all over there. So it's just now expanding more products for them, and then of course that for the people who would want that, and to also bring new products that people don't even realize exist today.
Remember for the years that they claimed that he overpaid for it? I wonder why he had to overpay for it from the government.
Well, he saw it, man. He said that's it. The community, or it's the network.
He bought a golden goose, is what he did.
Bro,
I would love
Metcalf's law, man. Metcalf's law.
Correct.
I would love to see a reevaluation of the price of X in today, just to see what happened with it under his leadership. That'd be hilarious. I bet it went up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Like you guys have said, everyone is making moves around this spot on the calendar. So the next month to 6 will be probably pretty spicy.
True. And by the way, these stories, these last few here, they all tie back into the earlier question that we asked after talking about the macro markets, which is, do you think price go up or price go down? Based on everything coming out, people are building, people are expanding, governments are moving in on this to actually open it up in ways that are very codified in law. All of these things, in addition to I heard M2 money supply just hit a new all-time high recently as well. PPI has been going up steadily, hasn't quite broken the magic number of 55 yet, but it's going up, and inflation is going down. It's like all these indicators are pointing to the idea that crypto is the future. And I don't want to be cliche by saying that, but realistically, it's like we have the technology at our hands. We already have people invested. We already have TradFi invested. We already are working with a lot of different versions that can expand it outside of just being on blockchain, but to being in the real world. Like all these things are pointing in a direction to me, and it seems like it's screaming in my face.
Yeah, man. I'm with you. Look, I'm DCAing as much as an author as I can, for all the reasons that we've cited. You're right. I mean, it it's funny how our perceptions are governed by what's going on around us and our emotions, right? If you feel bad, you see certain things, and if you can see past those things, you maybe notice some other stuff that's important. And hopefully, we did that tonight. In a market that maybe is in a little bit of disbelief or saying this rally will fail. Look, the 4-year cyclers may be right. Clarity Act, what was it at? 64, 58, something like that. It's north of a coin flip. I know that.
6%.
66. Hey, that's pretty good, man. 66% is pretty good. They won't give you those odds in the casino. And so, yeah, look, I think
True.
I think if it fails, be around and try to scoop up even more low prices, because these people don't make choices for the one piece of legislature and for 1 month or 6 months. These are folks that are projecting years and decades into the future, and they're making these choices to build around crypto. And so hang in there.
Well said.
Yeah, and I think somebody I remember we had some people on one of our shows when we were doing it. They were asking us, this is when gold was ripping, and they were like, well, what do you think what's gonna hit sooner, 5,000? Is it gonna be gold or ETH? And I was hesitant. I was like saying, I'm betting more money on ETH. There's more upside to ETH than there is gold at this point. And that was when it hit near its high and almost hit 5,000. But
yeah, what was it, like 49.50 or something? I mean, it was close.
47 or something.
Is going through their second consecutive 10% correction to the downside.
Yeah.
So they're not exactly living the life of luxury over there.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is, you're telling me, I'd rather own something that hasn't moved much in 45 years, and all of a sudden now has had this massive run in the last year or two, or do I want something that has all of this fundamentals that are just building foundations that could literally change the way the entire world and the financial institutions around the world operate on this technology? Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ethereum bet on this one, because there's just more potential to the upside. Regardless if it's which one's the first to hit 5,000. I just thought that the number is almost irrelevant. There's just more to the upside on there, and because of just how much you can build on it.
That's true. By the way, we do have one more bullish indicator for the crypto bros out here. Coming to us from Tracker, we have an update on one of his favorite websites. That's DeFi Llama. Good sir, there's a new tab. It says new, so I know it's new. What are we looking at?
Real world assets. We talk about this all the time. I mean, we'll spend the other show, because I would like to spend a little more time looking at this and then going over it and maybe next week's show. But so we always talk about how everything's moving to tokenization, but there really isn't a clean way to see it all. Well, DeFi Llama's now got that under control now. So if you go so right now the tab you're on, so you're on overview. So in this overview tab, what it's showing you is, it's showing you the different categories is what it's looking at, or the different asset groups. And then as you move that slider, you can see when they started being tokenized. Move your cursor over like 2024 down here, and you can see it as it grows. Now, the interesting thing here is, the one that jumped out to me that I started laughing was carbon credits. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh, it's not a lie. It literally is a carbon credit. But anyhow, that's just another, end of the world type joke type thing. But anyhow, but when you go over here, the interesting thing, if you look at the bond market, we know that they've been using bonds to buy up, stable coins and bonds. Well, they've been tokenizing this. So bonds, if you go back to like 2023, there was only, like in June and July of 2023, I think the total bonds, keep going. No, to the other way. Like, go to your right and you'll see bonds. Bonds right there, 250 million ish, right around 2024. And now look how much bonds are locked tokenized.
14 billion.
That's insane. In that small period of time. That is a massive move on tokenization. And here's all the other things. Now, precious metals have been around for a while, and they've been steadily growing in all these asset classes. But now you have something actually, and if you scroll down, it will actually start to show you different the different areas of the companies and the things that are actually tokenized here. Now scroll to the top, and it's what I think is cool too, is you can click on the chains. There's one for chains. No, at the top.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
chains.
one there, change it. So if you go here, you can look at, okay, how much is tokenized? Where is everything getting tokenized on? So scroll down, keep going down here. You got, hang on, you got a different view than I
This
got
is
here.
Ethereum. So if we
Okay,
go to
okay, yeah.
all-
So you go all, yeah. Scroll down. You can see Ethereum has 43 total asset issuers out there. Now you're still not on the same one that I have. The one I'm on, you see here, all chains. Go to the top, click on chains again. There you go. Now scroll to the bottom. There you go. You go to the top. Now you can see which chains have the most total, real world assets locked on them.
That's
And
a
you can
big gap
see,
right there.
yeah, you got 17 billion on Ethereum, and you got 3.7 on Binance, Solana, Stellar, and so forth. But you scroll down even a little further, you do see some of these total asset issuers. Like there's quite a few on Arbitrum, Base, Polygon, and of course Avalanche. Yeah, and then it drops off pretty big from there. But that's another thing you can dive into this. Then you click on the next tab at the top. You go to platforms. There's that one. I haven't looked at that. Tells you kind of the different types of areas. One that's interesting to me is the asset groups. If you go to the top, click on asset groups. Now scroll down, and now you can see which this is the actual thing, like how many areas of the different asset groups that are being tokenized. If you scroll down, you start to get in some really interesting ones. Reinsurance, insurances, you have
Ooh,
digital
industrial
assets.
metals, your favorite.
Yep, you got that in there. If you click on, you got oil. You have other stuff in here, natural gas. So it's weird. You're actually starting to get into all this stuff, energy. They even got AI and computing infrastructure, agricultural commodities, Neuralink. What?
Hold on. I like how crypto is number 26.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think they're looking at real world assets. So I'm curious to even know what
Okay.
those three are. So real world, this is the world. Like you're starting to see it tokenizing. You're seeing what they're starting to lay out is what's coming.
Yeah, and
That's
if legal clarity is coming, right, and we already see the amount of real world assets locked on Ethereum, that's something to bear in mind, right? To go back to our thesis from the show.
Yep. Click on
something that
categories.
really
Click
stands
on
out.
category. What I love about this though is that now click on categories. So what I love you can see this evolve since 2022, how it has just taken off. And if you scroll down here, now it gives you the categories what we were talking about, like which one the bond market's the biggest, gold and commodities, the metals, private credit, stocks and equities. I expect that one to explode because total asset count is at 2,600. So that one could really start to take off. Crypto funds, sure. ETF, sure. Real estate, we already talked about it last year, how there was real estate companies in New Jersey that were tokenized on the actual Avalanche network. So that was already happening. So I think what I love about this is it actually gives you some analytics and some actual numbers to show you, to physically look at, okay, what in the world's going on out here and who's got what. And then on top of this, you can see it grow, and you're seeing this thing grow quickly, very quickly. I mean, look at that chart. I mean, look at that. That's what mass adoption looks like, by the way, FYI. Like this isn't a fad. that is a massive growth just coming towards. I mean, it goes back to Metcalfe's law. And if you tokenize all this stuff on these networks, you start bringing value. This is where TradFi and people like, the presentation I go back to with Tom Lee, how he was saying, like, we're trying to figure out how to price these things. How do you price a network? How does that coin worth this much? It's not just a simply supply and demand. If you've got a lot of assets locked on that network, then the assets add value to the network itself. So it's a lot of things coming. I think there was another one in here I thought was pretty cool. I'm trying to see if I can't find it, but it actually showed you which companies. Yeah, I think it's this one here. Is it platforms? Yeah, is it platforms? Yeah, you're starting to get into actual, like, the different platforms that are tokenizing, and you can see which companies are out here that are actually starting to do this. There's another one out here. Let me see here. Was it this? It actually would go into and show you which companies, like what are the big companies out there that are tokenizing. So I guess it's the first one. Go to the overview one. Yeah, here. So
I am
go
not
to
surprised to see the boogeyman here.
go to the top overview. Scroll to the very top and click on overview. All, yep, go to the bottom, scroll down, and then you'll start seeing like Tether Gold, BlackRock, number 2, US Yield Coin, Pax Gold. You're starting to see the big ones here: Wisdom Tree Treasuries, Franklin On Chain, US Government, this is the S&P 500.
13th place for the S&P 500.
Yeah, I mean, do people not understand what's happening? I don't think people quite understand the magnitude of this. I think tokenization of assets is going to be as big as AI. That's where I'm at. I mean, as a massive disruptor and changing the game.
I see it.
NVIDIA Corporation, number 42.
Yeah, man, whether it's yield bearing products competing with traditional finance products or real world assets where you tokenize
Tesla.
anything, right? I mean, it's yeah, look, I think X Money, if they launch their own chain, could be a late comer to this party, but Ethereum is looking like the dog to beat. That's for sure.
Get the Nasdaq on here at 64. The Nasdaq. You got NVIDIA. You got Google Alphabet on here. You have MicroStrategies, of course. You got Tesla on here. So all the big boy companies they all have some type of tokenization that's happening. Now the $1 million question is, yes, the bet is on Ethereum, but are there any other outliers out there that might be worth looking at? And that's where the chains come into play. Probably looking at like which chains have been, outperforming, which ones have been, looks like Ethereum is still the king of the hill, but Binance has still been holding strong at 2. And then then maybe Solana, and then that's it. There's not a whole lot, but you'd want to watch this to see which change might start to move as a possible outlier, because there's always this talk about I forgot what network it is out there, but there was talks that there would be a private chain network out there for I don't know if you want to call it the governments or whatever, but there's another private one that was going to manifest. That was always the rumors. One that was public for everybody and one that's closed for the governments or the elites and stuff. Now, whether or not we believe that or not, who knows? But these are the kind of things that they start as narratives. They start as just stories and rumors, but you got to watch the numbers. Now you have a place you can actually watch the numbers.
True.
And see what what might manifest. So yeah,
Excellent
DeFi
find
Llama,
on
just
that.
great reward assets. I love it. This was fantastic.
True. By the way, we will dive more into this, but we will have to do so on either another stream or inside of the private Telegram, which, by the way, if you want to join, you can get into it by heading on over to the website, walktheblockndf.com, finding the membership tab, and find the way to sign up from there. Inside of there, you can find all sorts of great stuff, the ongoing crypto chat where we post the latest and greatest when it comes to our research, but also yours. We definitely encourage people to share their findings as they evolve through their crypto journey, because we want more people to work together with, and we want to help people climb the rungs of the ladder when it comes to the knowledge, and hopefully help you climb the experience ladder by not making the same mistakes that we did back in the day. But that is the main goal there. As we say around here, the waters get rough, so don't sail through them alone. Come join us as we navigate digital finance, private mentorship, exclusive live streams, Q&A, go from beginner to intermediate to expert with us. When we all work together, we can all win together. Alrighty, gentlemen, that does it for tonight. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great comments, including a good quote. I like Dace's Venezuela was mining Bitcoin pretty well before we visited them with our freedom, I believe it was.
That's right.
Excellent. All right, before we get out of here, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Dace, Dace, the floor is yours, sir.
Not really. I've said enough this evening, man. It's fun to be on, always. Thanks for tuning in. All of you guys that tuned in, it's great to have y'all. Great question. It was fun to entertain the questions from the chat. They're always fun. And yeah, stick around. Be back next week.
Love to hear it. Tracker, what do you think?
We'll be diving into we've had some people asking about pulse chain coins and stuff, and some charts and some analysis on that. So that's coming. Zenith, I think I would like to try to do it maybe tomorrow if you want it during the day or later in the evening. That's fine. I know Dace has been on that, but hopefully like to get that posted by next week for our members. Also going to talk about, we have also put out in the membership groups also levels to look at maybe if you want to take some early profits, nothing too drastic, but just trim a little something if you want. We've talked about that on retracement levels. Yeah, just looking to try to keep cranking it out and staying on top of everything because things are moving pretty quick. And I think, like you guys have already said, all the events coming up, got all the stuff happening that's deliberating in the end of April. You get the new Fed chair coming in. Supposedly, maybe there's rumors that this war is going to finally get put to bed, and for everybody's sake, in that matter, even for the people over there, I'm sure that they would like that to end more than anything. And then on top of that, just the momentum of the markets now swinging to the upside and breaking out all-time highs, which is just going to bring more reassurance to everybody. So yeah, it's good times. A lot of things to be diving into. I know we were going to talk about that too for our members, also trying to talk about how to onboard into Liberty Swap, but also doing it in a more creative way to help with a little bit more of a security level of protection when it comes to protecting your wallets and not disclosing and doxing yourself essentially just to protect yourself out there. So
yeah, look, we've got a couple of different stock market indexes hitting all-time highs, right? Was it S&P and Russell?
Yes, sir.
Come get your crypto game sharp before Ethereum's at all-time highs. And you're like, why didn't I go do that earlier? I watched those guys and I didn't sign up, and I didn't do the cold storage wallet, or I didn't, whatever the thing is, right? Whether sign up for your extra exchanges so that you have places to go off ramp when the time comes, or there's always maintenance to be done, right, around your crypto journey. And so if you don't know what that means, if you need education and you need us to help you out to know how to best keep a good crypto hygiene, right, that's a big part of what we can do and offer as well, is to be mindful about how it is that you're handling such a volatile space.
That's true. And by the way, if you're curious about the security stuff, last week on the stream, I covered wrench attacks about people, have people show up at their house, sending them pizzas, saying, "I know where your address is," and then ultimately threatening to cut off their fingers. That was an interesting story I covered. But yeah, security's a big one.
Dude, I called that. I told you I called that a year ago that it was going to start happening, where people were just going to start robbing people because they're getting doxxed. I'm telling you. Now, and here's the scary part: we start hitting all-time highs again. You better have some security in place and protect your identity and all, or those horrible stories are going to come to fruition. Not just there, but all over the country, all over the world. So be
very
careful.
true. By the way, shout out to France. I believe they made up 40% of all the wrench attacks for 2025.
I heard that, man. Poor French, man.
Nah, can't get a win. Sorry,
I
guys.
wonder why it happens there. That's interesting. That's strange.
Beats me, man. Beats me. Anyways, that is all we got for this week. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week, where we cover the latest and greatest with the crypto news, break it all down for you guys at every level. When I explain it to your grandma and the guys over the Fortune 500 companies, trying to cover all the bases. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the comments. You guys are hilarious and fantastic. Yes, I am looking at you, Just Live and Mr. Brown. But outside of that, you can catch us in the Telegram. You can also follow the show over on Walk the Block NDF on X. But that is it for tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we catch you guys next week or inside the Telegram, wish you guys a very happy weekend. Have a good week and good night.